Welcome back to Explain America. This is your host, Kyle Becker. Well, Hakeem Jeffries realized this weekend that mainstream media journalists, well, some of them are capable of asking serious questions, and he was rattled, he was stunned, and he was exposed for the entire nation to see because his radical Democrat talking points, well, they sounded really hollow. But before we get into this story, please like, share, and comment at Explain America. Join us. We appreciate your support for common sense journalism. Well, Hakeem Jeffries has been spouting talking points for weeks now that the shutdown belongs to Republicans. And of course, we know that that's not true because, well, it takes 60 votes in the Senate to pass a continuing resolution. And Republicans, they don't control 60 votes, and they know that. And so the Democrats have been holding the country hostage over $1.5 trillion in unnecessary spending and healthcare for illegal aliens. And they really think that they can bamboozle the American people with the help of the left stream media. They will hopefully, in their eyes, create a smokescreen. We're going to be too stupid to understand what's going on. And the Democrats, well, they will just skate by like they always have when they're able to just repeat deceptive talking points. And another one that has come up is about gerrymandering. And so the Democrats have created a fiction that Republicans, well, they're just coming out of the blue. They're creating partisan districts across the country because, well, this is just unprecedented and they've never seen this before and it's anti-American and yada, yada, yada. Well, the Democrats have been doing it in spades for decades. They have ginsued their states into tiny little districts that are hard left, and they're just absolutely removing the representation of Republican voters in those states. Like some of them get 0 votes. Despite having like 30-40% Republican voters in the state, there are no districts for Republicans in the entire state. California is like this. Only 20% representation of Republicans, but 40% voters. And now they want to remove 4 or 5 more seats in California. And this is all considered fair game, according to Democrats. So they're mad about Texas and they're mad about North Carolina. And so they think that they could just say whatever they want and the mainstream media will go along with it. Well, Hakeem Jeffries realized this was not the case, and he was hit hard by Margaret Brennan. And let's hear what he had to say.
You said Democrats, there are no election deniers on our side of the aisle. You said that back in January. But recently, you've been using the term rigged elections in reference to the upcoming midterms. Democrats were appalled when President Trump used language like that. How do you justify using that now? Doesn't that undermine faith for voters? You need to show up.
No, I've been using that term in the context of Donald Trump's unprecedented effort to gerrymander congressional maps in a partisan fashion all across the country in order to rig the midterm elections and deny the ability of the American people to actually decide who should be in the majority as it relates to the House of Representatives.
You know, Democrats are also going through gerrymandering and redistricting.
No. Well, Democrats are going to push back aggressively to make sure that we have fair maps across the country, not partisan gerrymandering, which Republicans have initiated in state after state after state.
Well, it looks like CBS, they might be heading in a slightly more neutral or bipartisan direction, and that may be in part due to the acquisition of Bari Weiss, the ex-New York Times editor who calls herself a conservative. And so there may be some things changing there. I heard a report that CBS is looking into trying to poach Bret Baier from Fox News. So we might see a little bit more bipartisan direction from CBS News. It will be interesting to see what happens with that. But weigh in with your comments. What did you think about Hakeem Jeffries versus Margaret Brennan? And is CBS trying to change its ways, or are they just trying to fool us by pretending to change its ways? We'll have to stay tuned for that. And thank you for watching Explain America.